New World has been out for a month now, and I've already spent a whopping 240 hours in the game. I swear if I didn't have a full-time job, I would be putting even more time into the game. I swear I can live without it.
I don't need it. I need it!
Okay, maybe I can't, but today I wanted to make a first impressions video of what the game is like after 240 hours and my experience so far. My name is Astro, your resident MMORPG crack fiend. Let's get right into it. Starting off with character select. Gonna be brutally honest here, I don't think character customization was really a priority for Amazon. It's very basic and you don't really get very much customization, but a lot of that I alleviated by putting something over my character's face so I never have to see it again. Once you make your character, then you have to go through server select. When the game first came out, this was hell because the queue times were ridiculous. Luckily, by the end of the day, Amazon had added multiple extra servers, so even though we weren't able to select the server we wanted to go to, we selected a side server with the option of transferring later on. However, if you started playing the game now, you wouldn't have any of those problems. That was only a problem on launch because there were so many players and Amazon had not anticipated that kind of number. The important thing to understand about the game is there's no actual class selection for this. Whatever you want to do in the game is based on the weapons you choose. You have the choice of 2 weapons to use simultaneously. So you could use a spear and a hatchet, and that would be the playstyle. And the more you use those weapons, the more skills you unlock for it. This is really nice because it allows you to switch between weapons a lot easier. You don't have to make a whole new class to try a different playstyle. You can kind of adapt. And while I was playing the game, I really was able to try like several different styles, which I'll go more into depth later. Let's go over the first stages of the game. So once you make your character, you're kind of thrown into the new world and there's no real explanation for anything. You have to do these quests and you start in a random starting zone. So there are several different starting zones in the game. So if you're playing with friends, just understand that you might be put in a different location than your friend. At around level 10, if you follow the quest line, you guys will all end up in the same area, but it takes a while to get there. So if you're looking to play with your friends consistently, you might have to make new characters until you all start in the same area. But with that out of the way, I think overall the beginning stages of the game are really nice because it exposes you to everything. It gives you a little bit of crafting, gives you different types of weapons for combat, teaches you about the combat, and then you also get to explore and go to one of the main cities in the area that you started in. Additionally, there's no real story to the game. Of course, you are talking to NPCs and they do give you a little bit of background, but it's not really rich and it's not really fulfilling like a game like Skyrim or anything like that. So if you're looking for that, I wouldn't say New World has that to offer. It's more of a sandbox feel where you get to do whatever you want, not really guided by any story. So now you're probably wondering, what does the leveling experience look like? The leveling experience in New World is quite interesting, and I've heard a lot of different opinions on it. A lot of people talk about something called the level 30 burnout, where they kind of get bored of the game at level 30 because they think the questing is very repetitive and boring, and they can't really get past those levels because it becomes a lot more difficult to get that EXP. I personally didn't have this experience. I was really addicted to the leveling process and I was playing the game so much, going from 1 to 60, but that's just me. So the main way you level up in New World is you want to follow along the main story quest. So once you complete a main story quest, it kind of skips a few levels ahead. So say you're level 37 and you complete the main story quest, it's gonna get a main story quest that requires level 40. So you kind of have to fill in the gaps of the levels to get to the next part of the main story quest. So how do you do that? And in classic sandbox fashion, the answer is however you want. There's a lot of ways to level in New World besides the main story quest. One of my favorite was the project town boards. So in the middle of town, you have this town board that gives you certain objectives that you can do. Based on the development of the town, there'll be more objectives in certain towns. So you might want to do it in a more developed town. And it'll ask you to gather certain materials like logs or kill certain mobs or, do any kind of task and it'll give you EXP. The further you progress in terms of craft skills, the more advanced materials they're going to ask for and the more EXP you get from those. Alongside the project boards, you also have side quests. So every single territory has a side story quest line that you can complete for a lot of EXP. So the way I did things was I kind of mapped out, what I need from the project town board and completed the side quests at the same time. And honestly, it was a really interesting experience because I was going around different places, doing different things, and it didn't really seem that repetitive to me. But I also play BDO, which is literally a circle circle running simulator of killing mobs, so you know, take that with a grain of salt. So the last thing you can do is faction quest. So in the main story, you're made to pick one out of the 3 factions in the game, and basically you do their quests in order to level up your reputation with the faction. You can either do PvE quests or PvP quests in order to level this up. I would not recommend this because this is actually the slowest way to level and the most repetitive. So this is more if you want to do it for fun, but I really don't think it's that great of a way to level. But basically anything you do in the game gives you EXP. If you level up a crafting skill, you get EXP. If you get faction standing with the territory, you get EXP. If you chop some logs, you get EXP. So everything in the game really gives you EXP, but those are the fastest ways and the main ways that I filled in the gaps between the main story quests. But while you're leveling, you're going to realize that you're going to be fighting mobs, so what's the combat like in this game? New World took an action combat approach to the game where you have to fight the mobs individually, you're not tab targeting them, and you have to actually dodge out of the way of their attacks. For future MMORPGs, I really think this is the way to go because it's much more engaging when you're fighting things. A very notable part about the combat is that you get 3 abilities based on the weapon you're using. So like I said earlier, you get 2 weapons you can use simultaneously. Each weapon has 3 abilities. So I like this because there's not a lot of abilities, so it keeps it very simple. I think this strikes a perfect balance between new players and experienced MMORPG players, because for the new players it keeps it very simple and they can learn it very easily, but it also creates a high level of skill. There's a very high skill ceiling because using the abilities properly in PvP is the big difference between getting a kill and not getting a kill. Each weapon also has a heavy attack and a light attack. So with these heavy attack and light attacks, you can weave them in between your abilities. So it creates a nice little animation cancel that feels really good to use. Not only that, but there's also a large variety of weapons. You can play pretty much any playstyle you want. You want to play a tank? Go sword and shield. You want to play a very quick dexterity build? You could go spear. You can use ranged weapons like the bow or the musket. If you want to be a mage, you can use the fire staff or the ice gauntlet. They pretty much covered most things, and for the base of the game, I think this is really good. I wouldn't say the combat is perfect. I think there's still some clunkiness to the animations, but overall I think it's a very good base, and I think if they improve upon it, it can be really, really good. So let's talk about the group play in New World. My opinion is that group play is really, really important in MMORPGs. So this is something that I really care about when I do play an MMORPG. For context, I played this game with a group of friends, so we did a lot of stuff together, but there's also a lot of parts of New World that are very isolating. So for example, when I talked about the Project Town Board quests or the faction quests, those are random. So when you're in a group, everyone gets a random quest or objective to do. So realistically, it's hard to do those with other people unless you're like, okay, let's do my quest and then let's do your quest. So those parts of the game you really can't do with another person. However, the main story quests and the side quests are all the same objectives, obviously, so you can do those with your friends. And that's what me and my friends did. So once I was done collecting my logs and my friend got all his tadpoles for the Project Town Board quests, we would start doing the side quests together. But aside from questing, the more you level up in the game, the more opportunities there are to play with other players. Once you hit level 25, you get to do your first dungeon, and the dungeon is also a great way to level up because it has a repeatable quest. I really like the dungeons in this game because it forced us to work together, and the first time we went through the dungeon, we had to figure things out because no one had really done them before. What I really liked about the dungeons is that it had puzzles. So the first time going through, none of us looked anything up, so we had to figure out how to get through the dungeon and solve these puzzles. Obviously, after doing it the first time, we figured it out and we didn't have to, you know, struggle the next couple times, but the first experience of the dungeons was always my favorite because we had to figure that stuff out. I would say the first couple dungeons also didn't really have very intensive mechanics because we were still trying to figure out the game, but once you get into the later dungeons, there's mechanics for the bosses and you have to work as a team to figure them out. So I really, really like the boss fights and figuring out what to do during those boss fights. On top of that, at any level, you can also start doing faction wars. Basically, each faction tries to take over a certain territory in the game, and in order to hold the territory, you have to defend against faction attacks from the other factions. It's basically a giant 50v50 war, and it only takes 30 minutes, but it's a huge battle between both sides. In order to take the territory, it takes a lot of coordination and effort because the defending team has a significant advantage because they get structures and all types of different defense mechanisms to hold off the other faction. What's cool also is there's a PvE version of this called Invasions, which are unlocked at level 50, and you basically have to defend against hordes of different mobs that try to attack your base. One of my favorite things they added into the game is called Outpost Rush. It's basically a 20v20 domination match where you have to take control of certain territories in order to gain points. Whoever gets 1,000 points by the end of the game wins. You get a lot of resources and rewards for winning, so it's really fun and rewarding because you get to do these small little skirmish fights, and you also get stuff that's meaningful towards your progression. The thing I really like about Outpost Rush is it also supports multiple playstyles. Say you really like the trade skills. There's a lot of gathering that's involved in, mining, chopping trees, killing mobs in order to make your base a lot stronger so you can defend it easier. On top of that, they also have something called Baroness, which is very similar to like League of Legends or Dota, where you have Roshan or Baron, and it's basically like this huge mob that spawns every like 10 minutes or so, and you have to kill it, and what it does is it freezes the points of the enemy team, so that's a huge objective to get. The really sucky thing is that it's currently disabled, so I guess there's some kind of bug and Amazon has taken out Outpost Rush, which breaks my heart because I love Outpost Rush and I wanted to spend a lot of time doing it, but I can't because they took it out. Overall, I think they have some really good base foundations for group play, and I think there's some really cool things that you can do with other people. I would love to see them add on to this and make it more friendly for people to level up together, but other than that, I think it's a really good base. The last thing I want to touch upon is trade skills. I keep wanting to call them life skills because that's what we call them in BDO, but they're known as trade skills, so that's what I'm going to refer to them as. I like how Amazon implemented trade skills because it gives players another avenue to play through. Some people don't actually enjoy the PvE or PvP of the game and they want to just focus on trade skills, and you can do that because trade skills are widely important in this game. A lot of the end game things that you need to do, whether it's dungeon keys to get into a dungeon or certain materials or armor or food, all requires trade skill mastery. So I think it's really important, and I think it's a great way to play the game. Some people can actually just straight up only trade skill. Like I know some people who literally only focus on trade skills. Like my friend is literally just doing furniture and that's what he wants to do. Furniture and like logging and all that stuff. I haven't delved too deeply into that. I've kind of worked on mining and stone cutting, but I haven't gone too deeply into it. I'm working on fishing right now, which is a lot of fun. So I can't really say the flaws of it because I haven't really seen any of them. I really enjoy it. I would say the only thing is maybe it's a little too grindy for people, but I do really enjoy it. So overall, my conclusion of New World is it's a really great game and it has an amazing base for something in the future. However, my big problem with it right now is with the bugs. Once you hit level 60, you'll start to realize that a lot of things are bugged in this game. Like I said, Outpost Rush got taken out because of a bug. There's also another late game level 65 corruption portal, which is basically an end game way to get gear that's bugged and you can't get rewards from it. There's a lot of different things that are being held back right now, and I think Amazon needs to focus on these bugs. Right now they're doing weekly updates in order to fix these bugs. However, I think they need to do it more frequently until these bugs are fixed, because it's going to have a huge impact on the late game where there is a lot to do, but a lot of it's been taken out because of bugs. So overall, I think really great game, but they have some stuff to work on. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please go ahead and drop a like, a subscribe if you want to see more content from me, the MMORPG Crack Fiend. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.